our history. Tomorrow is 1st of November, which is World Kobani Day. It is a worldwide day that, as you know, commemorating the 4th anniversary of successful resistance against the ISIS people by people of the Kobani. During the siege of Kobani in 2014, while the Kurds was desperate for the world to pay attention to it, Kurdish freedom movement called for the day of action on the 1st of November, which became known as World Kobani Day. Like Stalingrad, Kobani represents symbolic resistance and struggle for repelling the ISIS sieges in 27 January 2015. Kobani victory can be marked as the end of ISIS. As you know, the warriors from YPJ, revolutionary forces, and ordinary civilian, believe it or not, from children to seniors, battle against all odds with very limited supply and weapon. And some of weapons they found it in 1960s, even they didn't have a bullet on it, of old Russian Kalashnikov. But they win the decisive victory against the ISIS and Turkish jihadi backers. The tradition has continued ever since to mark historical resistance and to stop the ISIS onslaught. Therefore, we salute, celebrate this heroic effort, and we remember martyrs who made the ultimate sacrifice. We have tomorrow an event in a Kurdish community center, Kurdish Democratic Community Center in Pascual. Everybody welcome to join us tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe Professor John has mentioned most of the things, but again, maybe my apology, it could be repeating some stuff, but I put it together to put more details. I have some perspective, some historical fact, and also some of my own view and ideas. As you know, Kurds are indigenous mountainous people in the region of Middle East and Southern Caucasus. They are largest stateless nation in the world, the 4th largest ethnic group in the Middle East, an estimated 35 to 45 million. Live in territory that span borders of modern Turkey, Iraq, Syria, Iran, Armenia, and Azerbaijan. More than half of the Kurds alone live in Bakur, which is northern Kurdistan, which we roughly estimate at 50 to 55% of Kurdish land. In all these countries, central government has always pursued extremist and nationalistic ideology to repress and exterminate Kurdish identity. However, the Kurds manifested a strong resistance toward this ethnic chauvinism. These brutal states with undemocratic and authoritarian policy, along with political, military, and economical backing from Western countries, they managed so far to enslave and separate Kurds in all part of Kurdistan. If they look in the real fact is, in Middle East, this state do not want any other national ethnic. As you go everywhere, they talk about Middle East is a rich place, full of culture, full of nationality. But the reality is, according to Gregory Stanton, chairman of Genocide Watch, you see 3 empires exist, old empires. 3 psychopath empires, that one is Ottoman Empire, Persian Empire, and Arab Empire. And the reality is, they consider Kurds as dangerous to them. And they want, and in fact, they try to their full control. What also most disturbing, the barbaric regimes are in pursuing Kurdish demand, not just inside but the outside the borders. In my view, Turkey is the main obstacle to any Kurdish achievement, not just in Kurdistan but anywhere in this planet. If it wasn't for Turkey, Iran-Iraq regime would have been collapsed long time ago. The uprising for surely would have started a long time ago in eastern Kurdistan as well as southern Kurdistan. As you know, the chemical weapon and attack on Kurdish in South Kurdistan, all was the Turkish government had a well organized and have a part on this crime. Today, as you know, in Turkey, Erdogan, like other regimes before him, has adopted nationalistic and extermination policy to drive the Kurds from the face of it. They use the ISIS and jihadists, both inside and outside the Turkey against the Kurds. And also, for the sake of gaining nationalistic votes, the Erdogan ruling party AKP sided with MHP. As you know, the Turkish most notorious and fascist organizations that have linked to deep state within Turkish military and mafia, which have been responsible for death of thousands innocent Kurdish civilians, and most of them is never been unsolved murders just in North Kurdistan alone. During the last election in 24th of June, despite the vote rigging and intimidation of HDP gained ground around 12%, which roughly around 11.7% after election. But the interesting point, the Turkish Nazi party, MHSP, had over 1.7 million voters in northern Kurdistan. So even you combining the military and Turkish militia in northern Kurdistan, assume entire military voted for the coalition of Erdogan and MHP. That's impossible according to Turkish even media itself. Therefore, many millions of HDP voters was stolen and replaced with AKP and MHP ballot. In the last couple of years, since break of ceasefire, Turkish regime have jailed thousands of Kurdish activists, as John mentioned. The Kurdish representative among them, 8 parliamentarians that included HDP co-chairs, and around 56 mayors on different towns. The aim is obvious, is to completely dismantle Kurdish legal represented in Turkish parliament. If I could go back just a little bit to overview the crime that Turkish government has done to the Kurdish people, with over 3,000 villages, as we know, has been destroyed and depopulated. Hundreds of thousands Kurds have been forced to migrate to Turkish cities and towns. Men, women, and children among them has been arrested, imprisoned, tortured, and raped and killed. And over 5,000 just alone extrajudicial killings since early 1970s. With the Kurdish language and culture, any massive manifestation of Kurdish identity has been banned and imposed with Turkish identity, language, and culture. The fact is, the trauma of Kurdish people have gone through have caused serious mental harm, which continue genocide under Article 2 of the Convention on Prevention and Punishment of Crime of Genocide, which ratified in 1948. If I could bring you just one of the point that clearly today this document and part of the old constitution Turkey still exists in Turkish parliament. So if I could bring you this attention, during the Zilan uprising, which is the Turks call them Ağrı Rebellion between 1927 and 1930s, is one of the most significant and horrific. In response to Ağrı Rebellion, government issued number 1850 law that declare as such: killing Kurds or committing any action individually or collectively against them from 20 June 1930s to November 10, 1930s by representative of state or servants or military or civil authority, or by guard or militiamen or any civilian during the pursuit and extermination of the revolt Ararat will not be considered as a crime. Essentially, this law ensured that there will be no persecution of Turks that involved in slaughtering countless Kurds in Zilan Valley. The government objective was to clean the Kurdish area of inhabitants of the Zilan. An estimated 47,000 people, including them women and children, was slaughtered. Even Turkish intention was so clear beyond the doubt, and if you look at the Wikipedia or Google, you can see Cumhuriyet, one of the newspapers, in 13 July 1930, clearly in headline, in the first page, say, clearing started. Those in the Zilan Valley have been completely exterminated. None of one of them survived. The operation of Ağrı continues. According to Association France and Kurdistan, between 1925 to 1939, 1.5 million Kurds, a third of the population, were deported to Mexico. In 1930, the